What if I told you that one of Honda's most interesting Civics isn't a 2026 model? And what if I told you it doesn't even have a giant touchscreen? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at a car that is nearly 2 decades old. No wireless Apple CarPlay, no massive digital displays, no complicated driver assistance systems. And yet, people are still buying them, driving them, modifying them, and talking about them. So why?
Was the 8th generation Honda Civic actually built better than some of the cars we drive today? Or are we simply romanticizing an old Honda? Well, today we're going to find out.
Okay, let's dive into this. On one side, we have modern cars. You know the ones, defined by giant touchscreens, wireless Apple CarPlay, and layers upon layers of complicated driver assistance tech. On the other side, the 8th Gen Civic. Pure driving basics. It's kind of like an analog survivor in a hyper-digital world, and it completely bucks the trend of modern automotive design.
Section 1. The Anti-Modern Masterpiece, 2006 to 2011.
So this is the 8th generation Honda Civic. It was sold in the United States starting in 2006, saw some mid-cycle updates around 2008, and wrapped up production in 2011. Now, this generation was a major redesign for Honda. It brought a completely different interior, a brand new 1.8-liter iVTEC engine, improved space, and independent suspension. But here's the kicker. Honda wasn't trying to make this Civic feel like a luxury car. They just wanted a relatively affordable car that was efficient, practical, fun to drive, and incredibly easy to live with. And honestly, almost 20 years later, that original design philosophy is exactly what makes it so fascinating today.
Section 2. Under the hood. Power, efficiency, and feel.
All right, let's talk hardware, starting with the engine. The standard Civic used a 1.8-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder iVTEC engine, putting out about 140 horsepower and 128 pound-feet of torque. And yeah, I know, 140 horsepower doesn't exactly sound impressive in 2026, but that's not the point. The Civic wasn't designed to be a muscle car. The point was balance. You got a really lightweight front-wheel drive car with either a manual or automatic transmission. But there's another massive reason enthusiasts still obsess over this generation, the Civic Si. The Si received a 2.0-liter engine, cranking out 197 horsepower, paired with a 6-speed manual and a limited slip differential. Now that is the version enthusiasts should be paying attention to. The regular Civic is all about everyday efficiency, sure, but the Si, that's where this generation gets seriously interesting.
And here is where the regular Civic really starts making sense, even today. 29. That is the super impressive combined miles per gallon fuel economy rating for a 2006 Civic EX with a manual transmission, which breaks down to 26 city and 34 highway mpg. And by 2011, certain Civic versions were reaching approximately 28 city and 36 highway mpg. So why does this matter so much right now? Because this wasn't some tiny, cramped penalty box of an economy car. You could legitimately carry 5 people, use a proper trunk, and commute every single day, all without sacrificing your fuel efficiency. It was incredibly practical for its footprint.
Now let's talk about something modern cars sometimes totally forget: driving feel. The 8th generation Civic used McPherson struts up front and a multi-link rear suspension, and that gave the Civic a surprisingly balanced feel for an affordable compact car. The steering was quick, the front-wheel drive chassis felt light on its feet, and because you weren't surrounded by layers and layers of electronic systems, the whole driving experience felt incredibly direct. You aren't buying this car for raw speed. You're buying it because it actually makes a normal Tuesday commute feel surprisingly enjoyable.
Section 3. Inside the cabin. The two-tier revolution.
I want you to mentally open the door and step inside for a second. This is where the 8th generation gets really interesting. The interior looked completely different from the Civic right before it. Honda introduced their famous 2-tiered dashboard. Your speedometer sits way higher up, right in your natural line of sight, while the tachometer and other info are positioned down below it. At first glance, yeah, it looks a little strange, but once you get used to it, the layout makes perfect sense for visibility while you're driving. It literally puts the most vital information right where you need it.
And it wasn't just stripped bare either. Depending on the trim you went for, you could get features like power windows, power locks, cruise control, air conditioning, steering wheel controls, an available sunroof, and upgraded audio systems. Now remember, this car was designed in the mid-2000s. Obviously, you're not getting today's giant glowing infotainment screens, but honestly, that's exactly part of its appeal. Lacking a massive screen means way fewer complicated systems to distract you. You literally just get in, start the car, and drive. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking an old Civic means zero safety technology. Honda actually built this generation with a strong passenger safety structure, crush zones, airbags, and seatbelt tensioners. However, let's be real here, safety tech has changed dramatically since 2006. Modern Civics have advanced driver assistance systems that this older generation simply doesn't have. So if you're buying one today, you have to accept that it's an older car, and you just cannot compare its safety equipment directly to the advanced automated systems of a brand new model.
Section 4. The Maintenance Reality Check, 15 to 20 years later.
Okay, if you're seriously thinking about buying one, there is one major issue you absolutely need to know about. Some early 8th generation Civics, particularly those 2006-2008 models, have been associated with engine block cracking concerns. Checking the specific vehicle's history is totally mandatory here. You must inspect the car carefully rather than just assuming every single model from this era is invincible.
Beyond that specific warning, the basic mechanical layout is actually relatively straightforward. You'll have your standard maintenance, oil changes, brakes, tires, fluids, and spark plugs. But alongside that, you really have to expect normal age-related wear. We're talking about cars that are around 15 to 20 years old now. You might face air conditioning repairs, worn suspension components, engine and transmission mounts giving out, fluid leaks, electrical gremlins, or just worn interior pieces. These kinds of problems are just a completely normal part of owning an older vehicle.
So when you're shopping for one, don't ask, is the Civic reliable? Instead, you should be asking, was this Civic maintained? A perfectly maintained 2009 model is a way smarter purchase than a totally neglected 2011 model, because at this age, specific condition and service history matters so much more than just the badge on the back.
Section 5. Mastering the fundamentals. Why people still care. Look, everybody today is talking about the newest EV or the latest luxury SUV, but the 8th generation Civic represents something completely different. It was simple. It was efficient, it was practical, it could be really fun, and most importantly, you could actually understand what you were driving. By mastering these automotive basics, Honda created a legacy that effortlessly outlasts trendy technology. They didn't need gimmicks, they just built a genuinely good car that connected with the driver.
And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. Consumer Reports famously described the 2006 through 2011 Civic as, quote, a major improvement over the previous generation, highlighting its roomier, quieter interior, economical 1.8-liter engine, and good ride and handling. That is some seriously respected, third-party validation of this car's enduring reputation.
So is the 8th generation Honda Civic better than a modern Civic? No, a modern one is absolutely safer, more comfortable, and way more technologically advanced. But is this old Civic still worth talking about? Absolutely, because sometimes the most interesting cars aren't the ones with the biggest screens, they're the ones that simply got the fundamentals right. And the 8th generation Civic is undoubtedly one of them. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Would you rather drive a brand new Civic with all the latest technology, or a clean, well-maintained 8th generation Civic? Let me know your choice in the comments below. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep learning.